What was the job?
Building a sex apartment.
Actually, that was the job you were offered?
Yes.
I felt uncomfortable in my body my whole life. Now, as a parent, all of my flaws will be the building blocks of their life.
Oh.
And that's terrifying.
All right, everyone. You got the tears and the reaction you wanted.
There we go. Give It To Me By would like to acknowledge that we live and work on Gadigal land. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay our respects to elders past and present. Sovereignty was never ceded. This is Give It To Me By, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything from a bi plus perspective. I'm Chad Barnier.
And I'm Steve Spencer. Together, we're diving into the real stories, the challenges, and the celebrations of the bi plus community. We are here to learn together and, of course, to laugh together.
From personal journeys to cultural moments, we are here to amplify a bi plus point of view and spark conversations that matter.
So, whether you're bi, pan, queer, or just curious, join us as we explore the world of bi plus experiences.
Now, let us give it to you by. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Chad.
I was thinking today, I have said at the start of every episode, I'm so excited for this episode. And I feel like it's almost going to become a meme. It's like, yeah, cool, dude. We get it. You're excited to talk about stuff.
Oh, no. It's a crutch.
It's a crutch. It's my go-to. Hi, I'm so excited.
All right. Well, let's reframe it. I couldn't be less excited to do this episode.
I'm so bothered to do this episode with you.
I am perturbed. I am dismayed.
Yeah. My body feels things it doesn't want to by being here with you.
And we are terrible liars because we are both terribly excited.
We're both very excited. If you have been listening to the podcast or clocking us on social media, we had done a bit of a call out to our wonderful audience, you folk. When we launched this podcast, we kind of went, let's just effing go. Let's do some of these big topics right out of the gate.
Yeah.
It's by Visibility Month. If we're going to be doing it, we need to be kind of doing it right and talking some big topics. We kind of just jumped in with 2 feet and we kind of forgot something. Steve, what did we forget?
Who the hell are we?
Who are we?
Who are these 2 weirdos with microphones and cameras just
she doesn't even go here.
Just yapping on.
Love a yap. Big old yap.
I mean, we leave bits of clues. We'll allude to things. I mean, after the last episode, if you all listened to the last episode, was the picnic episode. So you've all got a pretty deep dive into my sex life. But Chad, you remain a mystery man.
I'm the mystery man. Great.
I think you're the mystery man. I know all your deep, dark secrets. I'm looking forward to sharing your deep, dark secrets on tonight's episode.
Thank you.
Because,
great.
Because
my secrets are an asset for you. Great. Awesome.
Because we're doing an Ask Me Anything. Where I think it's important for you all to know a bit about us, where we're coming from, and not just sort of our expertise in this area, but also what got us to this point, and what do we do outside of this podcast.
Totally. Yeah, because I think what we talk about so often is the context of a topic, not just the topic, and the history of a topic. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of true for us is cool, you guys are talking about some interesting things, but the context of your life brought you here and the history that you've lived through brought you here, why and how and when, etc. are kind of important to the context of the podcast. You're listening along and you might hear a certain thing from Steve or a certain thing from me and go, oh, that's interesting. Where's why are you talking about that way? Which I'm really excited because some of the questions we got picked up on some of these little mystery clues that we've kind of been spreading through the episodes.
Yeah, so, you forget that people are listening and taking notes.
Honestly, I really do. It's quite a bizarre experience actually having a podcast.
It's cool.
It's this is my 3rd podcast at this point. Here we go. There's a little bit of history. I once had a podcast about personal branding. It went great guns until I got massively depressed and then had an incident where I lost an episode just after recording it, and it was really good, and I felt so guilty that I might have to ask the person to re-record, and sorry for wasting their time, that I kind of just went into a bit of a spar and stopped the podcast, which is a bit unfortunate. But
it's happened to me so many times, by the way.
Oh my God, I know, and I wish I just owned it, but like, hey, tech issues, I'm so sorry. But yes, it's so weird to kind of sit in a room. I'm sitting in my my second bedroom office at home where I sit all day and work, and then I talk to you, and then it goes out online, and like, oh, people are actually listening to this. Like, I see the numbers, I'm following the numbers every day, updating our analytics spreadsheet, but like that every one of those numbers is a person, and people are listening, and people occasionally write to us about a very specific thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am obsessed with you. Thank you for caring about this.
No, it's so sweet. I love hearing from people. And this week especially, we've got a lot of questions.
We do have a lot of questions.
Some cheeky ones. I mean, you cheeky people out there.
I love a cheeky question.
We said ask me anything, so.
We did. So one of the big things when we went out to ask for questions, we said nothing's off limits. So we're an open book. I probably should have, I don't know, had a wine or a shot of whiskey or something before starting. I did before the pegging episode. Had to loosen up for the pegging episode, but maybe I need to be more stoic in this one. Maybe that's the theme of this episode: stoicism, stoic.
What?
No, I feel like we're being a bit cheeky as well.
We're having a chit chat. We're gossiping.
You're having a kiki.
Yeah. Oh, we can be anyone we want. I could create my own backstory.
Oh my gosh, we could do this. Oh my gosh.
I was raised by wolves.
Raised by wolves. I am Romulus. My brother Remus and I were raised by a wolf and founded Rome, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you know? Let's start off with our little highlights. And because of the theme of the episode, let's maybe go into our own personal highlights.
Yeah, cool. Okay, maybe I'll start. So, I love to sing. I'm not a singer professionally. I have sung professionally, but I'm not a fantastic singer. But I enjoy
you're going to be
singing.
Telling us about this.
I enjoy singing, and my greatest joy is musical theatre. I love the theatre, and I'm a desperate theatre tragic. And at the moment, my little one is 2 years old. Their name is Dallas. Little Dallas is the light of my life. And I and my partner sing Dallas to sleep every night, have since they were born. And they love to sing too. Like, it's this thing, it's like kind of now a part of their DNA. And,
gorgeous.
And recently they've started singing songs back to us. And so like, and my favorite like show tunes. So we've got Annie lately starting to sing Tomorrow.
I regret endorsing this now.
But Les Miserables, Rent, like we are getting like some great show tunes out of my little one, and nothing like lights me up more than like I remember growing up and like singing loud and family being like, oh, you're so loud. Like when you own your own house or live on your own or whatever, you can sing as loud as you want. Just like you live in a house with other people, be considerate. And I'm finally in a house that I can sing as loud as I want. And I've got a little buddy with me that sings just as loud and loves it. And it's so beautiful. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So that's my byline.
I love little Dallas. What a beautiful gift to the world.
Yeah.
What does Dallas call me?
Dallas calls you Uncle Steve.
Ah, yeah.
Uncle Steve.
Uncle Steve.
Yeah. What's your bylight for the week?
I have been invited on a trip up to Byron, and I've been saying for ages that I need a little holiday. It's with some people that I very much love and enjoy, and it's just going to be a hoot. Get away for a couple of days. I'm looking forward to it. And like Byron, so for our listeners who are in Australia, you know Byron, but for everyone else, it's in the Northern Rivers region of New South Wales. And it's just, it's paradise. It's just gorgeous. It's where all the hippies used to go. It's now where all the yuppies go.
Everyone I know that's cool likes to go to Byron, and I never kind of got it. I was like, yeah, cool. Like, it's the beach. Totally. I'm not a beach kid. And then I went recently, and I was like, oh, this is kind of awesome.
Yeah. Well, so near Byron, there's a town called Lismore, and that's got the largest LGBTIQ plus population in New South Wales outside of Sydney, I believe. And
outside of Newtown.
so it's a very, very queer corner of the world up there.
Yeah, great. I didn't know that.
And interestingly,
cool.
It's where a lot of people in the early AIDS epidemic went to spend their final years. And so It's got a very large, it's got an AIDS memorial. It's got
really,
the remnants of that is that it's got quite a large representation of the HIV sector up there. Right. It's a very cherished place for people living with HIV as well as queer people.
Wow.
It's also like sort of a very spiritual place for me, and I'm looking forward to going back.
That's great. Speaking of AIDS memorials, I didn't realize that near me is Sydney Park, and there's a massive forest, what do you call it, like a plantation that in the 90s they started. It's called Spade, Sydney Park AIDS Memorial, I think, like that. And I just read about it this week, that there's this whole area in memory of people we lost to AIDS, and just kind of commemorating all of that. So I didn't. They're kind of everywhere, and you just have to kind of know about it. And I put it on my list to go check it out.
Oh, beautiful! Sydney Park is also known for other things. If you're roaming around there at between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. But
I did not know this.
Go into that. Yeah. Oh my goodness! Much of my 20s was spent in that park. But let's not go down that path. That path, literally.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You go off the path a little bit.
Yes. Now, for the listeners, you would know that every week we do like a topical or like a news story. However, because I'm traveling, we're kind of batching these episodes. So we've recorded 3 episodes in like 4 days, a few weeks back. So the news that you heard last week was yesterday's news for us. So we won't be doing a news segment today. We're going to jump straight into the Get to Know Us AMA portion of the podcast, because there's a lot of questions and we're really pumped to kind of get through them. Some of them are quite silly. Some of them are personal kind of questions about us. Some of them are a little bit more kind of tied to bisexuality and obviously the theme of the podcast. But we're just going to jump in and just have fun, really.
Yeah, beautiful. How about we start off, I want to know a bit more about you and what you do outside of the podcast. So I want to introduce yourself to us, Chad.
Okay. Introduce.
I hate this question.
I know. I contain multitudes. Okay.
That's beautiful.
Hi, my name is Chad Barnier. I'm the head of brand and creative at a marketing agency. We specialize in marketing for accounting tech apps. It's very niche. We also have a forthcoming media brand, which is very exciting. We're about to launch a media brand, which is also another podcast that I'm involved with, all about personal branding. I have worked in the creative space for a very long time. When I left school, I played in a band, and I played in a band for a good almost 10 years. We traveled around the world playing music. I play guitar. I play piano. Like I mentioned before, I like to sing. So I did that for a long time. I worked in guitar shops and was very fortunate to get discounts on very nice, very expensive guitars. I have a sweet tooth for Fender custom shop guitars.
You've got a sweet tooth for anything fine, but we're going to get into that.
I know. Yeah, and I like to collect. It's probably my ADHD brain. I like collections. So
you don't just collect, you curate.
Well, thank you. Oh my gosh. Like a few years ago, that was my word of the year. And so I really appreciate you saying that. Yeah. And so I worked in kind of the events and music industry for a long time. I then left the band. We did a trip to America. We recorded an album in America and a few more trips there. I kind of got a bit over it. We lost some steam for a few reasons. We signed a contract with a record label that shelved us and kind of ruined the momentum of our band. And I kind of got a bit sick of it. So left that, started my own creative agency, which was great, but I was not a business person. So that kind of tanked. Then I've kind of been working back and forth in events industries. I worked in action sports and music festivals for a while. I worked for Centrelink. Centrelink is kind of our social security. So helping those who need help, essentially. And it was on a job I wanted to be in. I worked that job during the COVID pandemic, and I luckily got that job just before it kicked off, or just as it kicked off, and found myself really, really enjoying helping people and connecting with people who were disadvantaged by the pandemic and disadvantaged communities. I almost was like, do I throw away all my creative stuff? Because this kind of slaps helping people. But I kind of love to do both. So then I found the Sydney Bi Plus network during the pandemic. And that's how I met Steve. Here we are on this podcast. But yeah, that's kind of a rough history of me.
Beautiful.
Creative background, like to help people, riddled with self-doubt. That's me.
Riddled. Absolutely riddled with anxiety.
Yeah.
That's me.
What about you, Steve? What do you do outside of work? What would be your elevator pitch be? I did not answer that question well. I gave a history and a bio. What's your history and bio? Yeah.
I'll go back a bit further. So I was raised by wolves. No. Well, I'm originally from Aotearoa, New Zealand, in the North Island. Grew up in Melbourne, and my family are on a 300-acre cattle farm just northeast of Melbourne. So I am a country boy.
Are they still on property?
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I love going down to the farm. It's my favorite thing. It's just my happy place. It's the best. And yeah, I've got two lives, sort of two careers. One that pays the bills. So I run a recruitment company as my day job, terribly boring. And then I've got my career that pays my soul, and that's all my advocacy work. So, you know all about this, Chad, but like a bit about that. I'm an ambassador for Qtopia Sydney, Australia's first LGBTIQ plus cultural centre. I'm an ambassador for the Bobby Goldsmith Foundation, Australia's oldest HIV charity. And I bring this up a lot, do research at the Kirby Institute on bisexual health and HIV. I lecture at Johns Hopkins University. I'm the treasurer and on the board of NAPWA, our national peak HIV body. There's a theme going here. Convener of an organization called BIPAN, the Bi Plus Positive Advocacy Network. And Chad, can we talk a moment how I managed to sneak BIPAN into the name of an organization?
I mean,
no one.
I thought it was just like, I love bi people, pan people. You know, I thought it was just like you made an org named after yourself almost. You know what I mean?
Right. But then when I was like figuring out what's the good name of an advocacy network,
Bi
Plus Positive Advocacy Network. Yeah. So we advocate multi-gender attracted people living with HIV. And then I do public speaking and then consulting work as well. So I work with different research projects and organizations on diversity, equity, inclusion, and all that sort of jazz.
And Steve, I feel like you've forgotten something that when I first met you, was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Is PrEP Access now?
Oh, yeah. There's always something. And yeah, over 10 years ago, founded an organization called PrEP Access Now. You know, for context, we were a grassroots organization, just 5 of us. We established a network between generic drug manufacturers of PrEP, an online pharmacy, and consumers. And we included advocacy in that. And we were based in Melbourne. At the time, they had a trial on PrEP. This is back when PrEP was being trialed. There were like 100 people on that trial. And we, at that very same time, were supplying 2,000 people with PrEP. So we just like pissed on the government, pissed on these trial organizers, and just said, you know what, you're taking it way too slow. We need to end HIV now. So we need to get as many pills into people's hands. So sort of that early advocacy set Australia up really well to be the first place in the world to end HIV transmissions, which we're on track to do.
The fact that you forgot that part of your bio is so impressive.
I was a baby. I can't even I look back and I'm just like, I can't believe we did that. Like,
that's huge.
It takes fucking balls to do that. But it wasn't just me. There were 5 of us. Like and we all went off and started our own careers. A lot of us continue to work in the HIV space. It was so formative.
Something that I've kind of wrestled with previously in my life is like, who am I? What do I want to be when I grow up? That kind of idea. Like I don't want to say skilled, but I have so many different interests, and I've put a lot of energy into a lot of those different interests, and I'm quite good at some of those things. And so I always battle with like, do I want to be a designer? Do I want to be a photographer? Do I want to be a musician? What do I want to be? But kind of to your point with the prep access, sounds like I was a baby when I did that. And I've had a whole life since then. And you could do whole projects that make a really big difference and last for a moment in time. And then you can go, thank you. I'm going to put you there and I'm going to move on to this thing. And it's something that kind of put my mind at ease a few years ago is the idea of a body of work, not who am I holistically, that should be involved in everything. And two people in 1 week, I heard the idea of body of work from, and it was Jason Robert Brown, a musical theatre composer, and actually, I think it was Conan O'Brien on an interview, both said body of work. Like, don't concern yourself with trying to make everything perfect. Just go, if I was to live like 60, 80 years, does this contribute to a body of work that I'm proud of? It doesn't have to be everything. And I really fucked with that idea.
That's so cool. On that, it's like when I was like 25, I had an existential crisis because I thought that I peaked at 23. Because that's when I did prep access. Now I'm like, I can't possibly do more than this. Like, you can't beat that. And then, like, looking now at everything, you know, looking at the waves you and I are creating, like just creating so much change. It's like, oh, okay. I wish someone told me, like, no, if you think you've peaked, or like you're in a trough, there's just another peak to climb, and then after that, there's more and more and more.
It comes and goes in waves, right?
Totally.
It's like you'll go in and out of the tide, and you'll come in doing something absolutely awesome, and then you just have to kind of. I'm not a surfer, but like I have friends who are surfers, and it's like you just have to wait for your set, and like go, oh, that one wasn't mine, and let someone else take that wave for a bit. And then you go, cool, this one's my wave, and you paddle for it, and you try your best. And then if you're in the right place and you're paddling as hard as you can, you might catch a really dope wave.
Totally.
I hope that is a good analogy. I don't know anything about surfing.
I say strike when the iron's hot. Like, if an opportunity comes up, strike. Just go for it.
Yeah. It's funny because like at 23, that's when I left my band, and I had been in 23, 24, and that was my entire identity for 7 or 8 years. And I was like, who am I without this? And like, it was everything. All my best friends I'd met through playing in a band. I'd traveled all over the world, and I was so young. I can't believe, like, hearing you say it. Like, I was so young, and I've lived multiple lives since then. I have whole people in my world that wouldn't know that I play an instrument. Yep. That's crazy to me.
I know. And we both moved around as well. So you're originally from near Canberra?
I'm from Canberra. Yeah. So I grew up born and bred in Canberra. Desperately wanted to get out my whole life because I was a little punk rock kid. I was like, I hate this small town.
No, shout out to our Canberra listeners. I love Canberra.
I love Canberra now. I had to leave to realize how much I love it. And then traveled a lot with the band. And then when I left the band, I moved to Sydney, and I've been in Sydney since.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
I ended up in Sydney. I came for Mardi Gras and never left, literally.
Great. That's a great reason to stick around.
While I was here. I'm like, all right, guess I'm here now.
What was the job?
Building a sex apartment.
Actually, that was the job you were offered?
Yes.
Steve, why didn't I know this? This is fantastic.
Yeah, I won't go into details, but I was brought on board to renovate someone's spare apartment into their sex apartment. So I built a sling room, built leather display rooms, erotic art presentation, all sorts of stuff, and ran it as an Airbnb for a while.
No way. That's awesome.
I know.
Wow.
Isn't that weird? Again, all these lives we've lived.
Yeah, it's so cool. Let's get into these questions.
Let's get into the questions.
First question, off the chopping block. Is that the right word? Chopping block? No, off the something block. Off the.
What's wrong with our analogies?
Like the diving block, swimming off the
beaten track.
Oh God! First question from our audience for the night is: when did you know that you were bi? Steve, when did you know that you were bi?
Well, I didn't know that bi was a thing until later in life, right? I hadn't really understood the term, but I'd always known I was multi-gender attracted just purely from my behavior, that I was chasing everyone around the schoolyard when I was quite young and getting in trouble for it. So in that way, I intrinsically knew that it's who I was, but I wasn't able to name it. for quite a while. But no, always new. What about you, Chad?
I think kind of the same. I feel like I remember when I was younger having very deep friendships with girls. Like I had some best friends. They were all girls. And so I was kind of hanging out with the girl crowd. And I feel like anytime the girls had crushes on boys, I was like, yeah, dope. Like they talk about, that will be my husband one day. And that, like, I remember very young in primary school, they'd have little weddings on the playground and all that kind of stuff, and just being like, oh yeah, cool. Like everyone gets married. It wasn't like boys get married to girls. It's like people get married. Yeah. And then, so funny, I've never talked about this. It's like a memory resurfacing. And then I was introduced to like kind of punk music in like year 5. But I say punk music, I mean like Blink-182, Good Charlotte, that kind of stuff, Green Day. And then in like year 7, I got particularly obsessed with Green Day. And there was an interview with Billie Joe Armstrong about, I think it was about the song King for a Day. And King for a Day, for context, is about when your mum goes out and you go to a wardrobe and you dress up in her clothes and kind of do like drag, essentially. And Billie Joe Armstrong is this kind of little punk kid from SoCal who, like, saying you're bi and you dress in women's clothing, it's a bit abnormal for like what you'd usually see. I feel like punk music, although based in rebellion, often can be quite mask and confrontational. And so I remember being like, "Ooh, that's interesting." And the interview where they were like, "Yeah, I'm bisexual," and it was very matter of fact. And I was like, "Wait a second. What does bisexual mean?" I might have like Googled it and been like, "Oh, that's me. I know that. That feels very true to me," and it's just been that ever since. Yeah. Really, I've had to navigate that bisexuality in many different ways.
Well, same, totally.
But different. Knowing, and having that language was probably year 7. How old was that? 12 years old.
Cool. All right, Chad. We're reading the questions that we've been delivered.
Oh,
so
yes,
Chad. Who is your favorite 90s supermodel?
Oh, okay. This is tricky because I was born in the 90s, right? I was born in 92. When I was in the 90s, I was a baby. Like I was
everyone's got a favorite 90s supermodel.
I know. I think I'm looking them up because I have to.
Yeah. Come on, Kate.
I feel like Cindy Crawford is stunning. Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. And I feel like it's got to be Linda Evangelista.
Yeah.
Right?
Of the supers.
Yeah.
Linda's pretty awesome.
But I feel like my answer's supposed to be Kate Moss, right?
I would have been that. But no, Linda's the good one.
I mean, I've watched a lot of Tyra, so I feel like I just love Tyra because of her show. What about you? What's your favorite? Who's your favorite?
Well, it's obvious.
Is it?
Yeah, Kristen McMenemy.
Who's that?
So she was one of the less super, but still super models. Look her up. She's incredible, and she's still modeling and still doing things well into her. I believe she's in her late 50s, perhaps 60s, and she's just got the most incredible androgynous look, self-described.
Oh, cool!
Yeah, legend, Kristen.
Great.
And anyone that watches Drag Race, you've seen her. You've seen her guest judge on Drag Race UK a couple of times. Yeah, icon.
Oh, wait a sec. I watch Drag Race.
Here's a cultural touch point.
Okay. I recognize her from that. I'm so sorry. Cancel me.
Crazy cat lady vibes, which is so my vibe. Like,
great.
I would kiki the hell with Kristen.
Seems like a hoot. That's awesome. Okay. What's next? What is your go-to playlist, Steve?
One that will always tickle my pickle is a good Tame Impala playlist.
Oh,
just
cool.
Hit Tame Impala on and I am a happy boy. Or if I'm feeling a bit hyper, get the Crystal Castle going. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Yeah, big time. What about you, Chad?
I love a playlist. So Heidi, my partner, I don't think I've name dropped my partner before, but Heidi, my partner, wonderful Heidi, we love to entertain. So we love to have people over. We love to set a mood. We like to curate an experience.
I just love how bougie that statement. Sorry to interrupt you, Chad. We just love to entertain. I am going to take the piss out of you all episode. I hope you don't.
Do it. Please do it. Well, listen, Heidi and I have both worked in events industries. We've both worked in service industries. We are both obsessed with home design and creating home and creating space. And
impeccable taste.
It kind of comes together in making space and inviting people to come into it, right? So we have a lot of fantastic playlists that we reference a lot. Cunty Chaperone's Summer is a great one. That's my favorite one at the moment.
Yes, we all know.
You can't get past a Nancy Meyers kitchen mix.
Okay.
So all the Nancy Meyers movies have got like the big rom-com kind of vibes, and it's very, very posy, and it's kind of all the songs from all the Nancy Meyers movies in one playlist. It's fab. Then there's a whole bunch of playlists by one particular person. So a good friend of ours, actually, we're probably at their wedding as you're probably listening to this podcast. Their good friend is Jessica Belliff. Jessica Belliff is known in kind of the home interior space and beyond, and they curate exceptional playlists. So our favorite one is called Bimlo. It's a great vibey dinner party kind of thing. And then a third one would be sauteing and slow dancing. And so that's like, yeah, it's cute. It's just like good kitchen cooking vibes. Put on some incense, light a candle, dim the lights, turn off the big light, the homophobic light, put on all the lamps, and just settle in. And it's a great time. So they're my kind of 3 go-tos.
I love this big light, little light trend.
Always the little light.
Chad, next question. Worst dating experience?
I'm going to have to disappoint people. I'm so sorry. I've never really dated.
Yeah.
Is that silly to hear? My partner and I have been together for 12 years.
That's wild.
And I am 32. So I was quite young when we got together, and I loved my partner from afar for a very long time before we started dating.
Chad.
So I didn't date all that much. And so I was like in school or just after school if I ever did date, but I didn't really. So I'm so sorry. My worst dating experience is a 12-year really healthy relationship. So sorry. Steve, you can be the one that's messy and has some goss.
That's messy and chaotic. I think because of potential legal ramifications, I can't tell anyone. Oh, look, no real disaster. I take dating for what it is, just an enjoyable experience to meet someone, and whether that works out or not, whatever.
Great. We are boring. Great.
Well, no, I will have some interesting one. I don't know. I mean, there was that guy who was oh, you're actually bi, and I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, I don't actually. Yeah. I don't hook up with bi guys. I'm like, but we've already hooked up. He's like, I wouldn't have if I knew that. And I'm like, whoa.
It was in my bio, babe.
And he's like, oh, everyone says they're bi these days. I'm like, okay. All right, buddy.
Yeah. See ya. Bye. Yeah, Speaking of bye. Bye. See you later. Okay, what's next? We've got best travel story. Steve, have you traveled much? Are you a traveler?
Yeah, I'm really lucky. And I've lived overseas a lot. So, born in New Zealand, grew up in Australia, but I studied when I was younger in California.
Oh, great!
And
I didn't know that.
I was meant to stay there, but
wow.
I was too rebellious, so came back. And also, you can get much further here in Australia. There are so many more opportunities here. It's so competitive there. And I was coming up to looking at finishing high school in the States, and I was just like, nah, I'm out. I can go much further at uni here in Australia than I could in the States.
No way. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. And then I also studied at university in France. So, I went to uni for 7 years, and I spent some of that time in France staying in Lyon. And so I think my favorite, because I didn't know much about Lyon when I went there, and it's just absolutely incredible. When you walk from west to east for only about 3 kilometers, not a long walk, from Vieux-Lyon to the modern part, you literally cover 2,500 years of architecture. So you go from a Roman amphitheater to a medieval town, then you cross a bridge, you end up in 19th century, it looks like Paris on the Presqu'île in the peninsula. And then you cross that bridge, you go to 20th century, and then the 21st century skyscrapers all in one walk, in a straight line. It's phenomenal.
Oh, that sounds Delicious. I
So
love that.
cool. Yeah, really cool. And I had
Wow.
no idea about that.
Can you speak French?
Oui, je parle français aussi. That's a little fun fact about me.
No way. That's
Wow.
great. Kind of hot. I love that.
And
Nice.
I'd love to practice more. I'd love to be able to speak French more here in Australia.
Well, I desperately want to learn a language. I started learning Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, a few years ago because my brother's partner is Brazilian.
Yeah, great.
And I made a pretty good dent in my Duolingo, and
Cool.
then I dropped off like 2 days and lost my streak. I was like, "Fuck this, done."
Oh,
And
no.
I desperately want to learn with someone so I can make it conversational. So you've heard it here first. This is Give It To Me by the English version. We will then be doing the French version and tapping into all the French bi people.
Bisexual, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I need to honor my name. I have a French last name. I feel like I need to learn something.
I know one word in Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you would have learned it in Duolingo. Hola.
Hola. No, I don't know.
So everyone says like, "Oh, that's Spanish. You're trying to say hola," and I'm like, "No, Portuguese hola. It means cock."
Does it?
And so when I say like, "No, I'm saying Portuguese," like, "Oh, now I know what you're trying to say." I'm like, yeah.
I didn't know that. That's great.
I imagine that'll get me through Rio and Sao Paulo.
Yeah, no, that didn't come up on Duolingo. Duolingo is like, the bear made me a coffee, which actually could be helpful sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
This bear makes a lot of coffee. So, yeah, wow. Well, tudo bem to your hola. That's, I don't know what else to say about your Portuguese cock. So
That's about it. What's your best travel story? What's your favorite? I know you've traveled a bit. You were recently in Japan, but
love
tell
Japan.
me yeah, you do.
Best travel story. I don't know best, but I've done a smattering. I've done the US, the UK, and Europe. I've done maybe not enough Europe because I feel like I've not done Italy. I've not done Spain, anything like that. And I've done Japan a few times. I think maybe one of the most memorable or most significant turning points in my life kind of thing was, so I played in a band. Mm-hmm. And we recorded our debut album, self-funded album, in Florida. We were there for 6 or 7 weeks, and we were recording with a fantastic producer called James Paul Wisner, who recorded Paramore's first album, who recorded The Getaway Plan, 36 Crazy Fists, Hands Like Houses, a whole bunch of really fantastic bands. It was in this town called St. Cloud, Florida, which is like a highway town, and it was interesting is what it was. An historically kind of known racist town. The local cafe was called Coffee Cup Cafe, all spelt with K's. Yeah,
what?
There we go. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Very interesting. The guy who ran the motel that we stayed at previously had people try to run him out of town because I think he was South American, but he had very dark skin. And so the town did not like that. And after just like kind of sticking it out and kind of sticking to his guns for years, he just became like part of the furniture in town and people liked him again. But it was really confronting being there. We recorded a fantastic album that I'm very proud of, but it was really confronting. It was kind of my first time overseas. First time seeing guns just out on the street. People strapped with guns just going to the laundromat. I hitchhiked. That was scary. Yeah, it was interesting. And we had some friends join us and my partner join us, and it was good fun. It was great. So that was a great turning point in my life. So that's a great travel story.
I wasn't sure where that story was going, to be honest with you. St. Cloud. Okay.
What's next? What do we got? Well, this one's for Steve, I think. How do you keep motivated in everything you do, Steve?
This came after someone asked me a question about my bodybuilding, but then I also get questions about this with my advocacy work. And so, yeah, for people that don't know, I'm entering competitive bodybuilding next year. It's my sport,
right?
And passion, and something I love. Keeps me focused. And
hell yeah.
When it comes to motivation for like the gym and fitness, it's less motivation and more just it becomes part of your life. Like whenever I go to the gym, 9 times out of 10, I do not want to go. but I just know that it's good for me and it's important to me and it's meaningful to me and that it's part of a bigger picture. And so it just becomes something like eating breakfast. It's just something that is part of my life. And I love that.
I'm also entering competitive bodybuilding next year. So I'll see you in the comp.
See you on the stage.
See you on the stage.
I'm so nervous about that. But then when it comes to advocacy and keeping motivated, oh, look, you and I talk about this a lot. And I think we're very lucky in the field that we advocate in bisexuality and the bi+ community, in that there's so much hope and there's actual change happening before your eyes. And I suppose that's very similar with the bodybuilding. When you see change, it's incredibly motivating. And when you see that, 1 + 1 or equals 2, or like an action has a reaction, like you can actually create something, that's incredibly motivating. And even when you come across roadblock in what you're doing, I remember my dad, because with the recruitment, I run the company with my dad. So he's my co-worker, dad, and best friend. And, he always told me, just flow like water, like just take the easiest route. Things don't have to be difficult. And so that's what keeps me motivated. I don't sort of butt my head against rocks. I go where the crevices are.
Oh, I love
and highly recommend that, because a lot of people will just bang on doors and you can see them burn out. And it's like, no, just go around.
Can we just pause? I love that you said your dad is your best friend. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I hope Dallas one day says that I'm his best friend.
I think Dallas will say that. I wasn't always close with my parents or my family, but as you get older, you sort of realize like, oh, this is what adulthood is like. This is what you went through. Oh, all right, let's hang out. And it turns out that your parents are just like you.
It's such a bizarre cosmic shift the day you realize that your folks are just people figuring it out. Like that they don't have the answer to everything. They're just people that just happen to be 20, 30 years down the track from you, who are just also fighting the same fight.
And they went through all the same things. They made all the same mistakes that you made. And you can ask them for all the same juicy gossip. It's so funny. I'm always like trying to lure old stories out of my parents.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I swear they've got like some fun, seedy old stories. I'm like, sure, you two were swingers. Like, where did I get it from? I remember when my parents would...
Swinging is hereditary.
Totally. Like, whenever we had a babysitter, they would always say, oh, we're going to the Casbah. And then when I found out what the song Rock the Casbah is about, I'm like, what were you two doing all those times you had the babysitter come and look after me and my sister?
You don't need to answer that. It's it's done. Okay. Who can do the best Cher impression, Chad or Steve?
All right.
Okay. Listen, as a long-time Will and Grace fan, I used to do this in high school or in college, Jack's impression. So my impression of Cher is an impression of an impression. So that means that it's probably not very good.
Give it to us.
Oh, okay,
and,
cool.
All right, people, you can vote now on, so we'll put this up as a reel. You can vote now who does the best Cher impersonation.
Oh, gosh, now I'm nervous. If I could turn back time. Is that it? Like,
that's it.
Yeah, I only know the Jack one. Like, Tom. Snap out of it. Yeah, it's not very good.
All right, I'm going to keep yours simple, but there is going to be a prop. Oh,
great.
All right, everyone, who did it best?
I think we can both lose a competition. Not very good. Favorite pop icon of all time? Jesus.
Okay, I should have thought about this.
I struggle with questions like this. I feel like everyone falls in a different category for me.
Give us the one that rises to the top.
I honestly think I need to come back to it. But for some reason, it means a lot to me to get that right.
Okay. So while Chad writes a thesis in his mind to justify the answer that he will give us, I'm going to go with a very simple answer. Lady Gaga. Mm-hmm. I grew up with her. She's a icon, unapologetic. I loved her music. I mean, art pop. Art pop came out at a really challenging time in my life, and it got me through like cooking my breakfasts in the morning, and to be able to jam to Gaga in the morning.
Gaga is up there for me as well. Gaga is really high up there. I was an emo kid growing up, and I loved, like, not just loved, I was obsessed with the band Paramore, and Hayley Williams is just on another level for me.
Cool.
It's almost like, do you exist on this planet, or do we just occasionally get glimpses of genius bestowed upon, like, you know, she's that good. I don't know many that can compare to Hayley Williams, and that's probably not what people think when you go favorite pop icon of all time. Probably think like a Freddie Mercury or something, but I don't know. Hayley Williams, every 6 months I get back on a kick with Hayley Williams. Like, yeah, you're kind of the greatest.
Love that.
Okay. Any party tricks? Ooh, not really. Okay. Do I have any party tricks? No, but I do like to stand off to the side of a party and pull faces at people sometimes. I do like a lazy eye, and it really trips people out.
Whoa, okay.
And then I just go straight face, and people are like, wait, something was happening to your face. And when I was younger, my nieces and nephews really loved when they call it the ratty face. And it's this kind of...
Oh my God, you just put a filter on. How do you do that?
Yeah. It's kind of like your dumb filters on Instagram that you use. And
sorry everyone for those.
I've learned that I can do a pretty decent like Elmo impression, purely just because I'm now a dad. Elmo has new friends. Are you a new friend?
Okay, everyone, that wasn't pre-recorded. That came out of Chad's face. I just witnessed it.
It did. Yeah, I would love to like do more impressions. I feel like that would be fun. When I was a kid, I did Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. Like, Nakataki! That's the other one I got.
What is happening? Oh my God,
there we go. That's it. They're the only ones I know.
We got a few different characters out of you in our last episode, the pegging episode, when you were playing the role of audience.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't bring Elmo out for the pegging episode.
I thought about it. I was like, no, I do Elmo with my child.
No.
Like, probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah, we vetoed that one.
I have an Elmo hand puppet at home, so sometimes it feels a little bit inappropriate. Steve, do you have any party tricks?
Yeah, mine's a visual one, so sorry to the listeners. I will describe it. Now, if you hate weird body stuff, don't look. But I have a condition called POTS and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and part of that is hypermobility. And so, for the listeners, I am bending my little finger backwards to my wrist.
Wow! Oh my gosh!
I'm a stretchy person.
I didn't know you had POTS. A dear friend of mine has POTS, and that dear friend listens to this podcast and might love the fact that that you have that in common.
To all the fainters out there, and when you fall asleep at 11 in the morning, I see you, I hear you, and our rickety ass joints.
Yeah, well, hi to that friend. You know who you are. I love you. We might move a little bit quicker through these. I'm kind of taking my time with the answers, but we have a lot of questions, so I'm going to have to hurry up a little bit. If you could be anyone, living or dead, who would you be?
Probably someone living.
I saw that clip today, Ariana Grande. That's great.
Okay, whoever cheekily put that question in there, good on you.
That's great. But seriously, I would probably say my favorite musical theater creator of all time is Stephen Sondheim, and I would love to live inside that brain. Hopefully, I could inherit that brain if I was to live in that life. But I would love to just like possess that skill. What about you?
Beautiful. Oh no, that was my answer. Genuine answer. Just someone living.
Oh, you just went for the joke. Yeah, cool.
Chad, what's a movie that has made an impact on your life?
I should have pre-read some of these questions. A movie that has made an impact on my life. Growing up, I didn't have tons of friends, and so I kind of found myself reading a lot of books. And obviously, I grew up in the 90s. So Harry Potter was my best friend for like 15 years of my life. So I've grown up with like an absolute obsession for Harry Potter. It's like it's kind of core to like who I am, which is really, really, really unfortunate the way things have gone with that whole thing.
Yes.
But yeah, those movies really kind of gave me a bit of an identity. And a little fun trivia fact, on one of my band trips to America, we played at Sundance Film Festival, and we played the launch of Daniel Radcliffe's movie Swiss Army Man. So
way.
there was one point where someone turned to us and said, hey, when Harry Potter stops talking, you start playing. So that was a very cool moment for us. Well, for me.
Is that in Salt Lake City?
It's in, Park City in Utah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, so I'm a bit of the only Real Housewives franchise I watch is Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So shout out to all the other tragics who watch Salt Lake City. Are you a Mary or a Heather, Chad?
I've never seen it. I have no idea. I'm sorry. No, I knew Park City because I loved Entourage. And so I remember watching Entourage and seeing them at Sundance Film Festival all the time. And then we were there and we were walking down the same streets. It was very, very cool. What about you? A movie that changed your life?
I don't think I can think of any formative movie.
I can think of one for you.
Okay. What?
The Mummy.
All right, everyone. It's the hit 1999 Academy Award nominated action adventure film, The Mummy, featuring Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser. Yeah.
I think we're at like a 50% strike rate getting that in the episode so far. Love it. Is that your answer?
That's my answer, The Mummy.
Great. There's a question here specifically for you, Steve. Are you single?
I don't say I'm single because there are many people in my life that I cherish and love. So I have a different view on relationships and connections and all of that jazz. And there are many people that I love and that I hold dear. So I don't feel single because I feel supported and loved and I have many, many fulfilling relationships. Am I DTF? For sure.
I was going to say, are we breaking this listener's heart? I think it could be. I don't know. Okay, this is a really cool next question. This is for both of us. What do we see as a gap in the skill set within the Bi+ advocacy space? What kind of skills do we need more of to bring Bi+ advocacy to the next level? And you can't say everything and everyone, even though I'm sure it's true.
Look, there's general capacity building. So our ability to contribute meaningfully in different areas. And that's why I tell people, see what you can do to change your corner of the world, whether it's in your organization, your expertise, your speciality. But I wrote a little note in that I would love to see our skills and abilities around working collaboratively be improved. Like to be able to work with people we disagree with and to be able to work with people and organizations that have harmed us. Like in all of my advocacy, I've had to sort of bite the bullet and, work with the structures and the organizations that already exist because, I do believe in changing things from the inside. And so to be able to work collaboratively and actually look at your end goal and be able to utilize the power that you can leverage is really important because I do see in the Bi+ advocacy space sometimes like maybe an unwillingness to work with those existing structures or within those existing structures. But, when your secret agenda is to tear them down and reinvent the world, then, we're all on the same page.
Yeah. I think that's a tricky one because I agree with both camps of like, I would find it quite hard to work with maybe it's oppressive groups or people who have harmed community previously. I feel like it depends on how entrenched those systems are in our society on whether or not you can just come in from the side and just make change and hopefully wash out some of that stuff. Yeah. Often change happens from within. Often change happens from allies of community who are in powerful positions and hopefully in a collaborative space because often they're the people with power and with the ability to make change. So that's really challenging. I tend to agree with both of those points at the same time.
Yeah. Totally.
It is challenging, yet perhaps because it's challenging, that's why it's worth it.
And like to add on to what I said as well, to have those outside pressures as well, then also supports me in, say, work that I'm doing from within. So it's a multi-pronged approach and no approach is wrong.
We've mentioned on the last couple of episodes the idea of like everyone working on things at the same time concurrently kind of rises the tide. And I think it's good to recognize where you stand on something like this so that you can bow out if that's not something that you're willing to do. but recognize that someone else might be willing and able to do that work, and kind of honor both of those experiences of like person A advocate and person B advocate can work on different things and hopefully towards a similar goal, but the means to the end might be different. But as long as we get to the end, hopefully it is beneficial to everybody. I think in terms of skill set, I think there's two things I'm going to kind of highlight. Money. Either people who are very good at getting money or have access to people with money, or people who are very good at selling an idea to gain money is an incredible skill set. This is actually something my mother is very good at. My mum has worked in a lot of charities and is very, very good at going out and just great at the ask of like, if you don't ask, you don't get, and you have to just kind of name what you want, be audacious about it, and just like, no is not a no forever, and no could be negotiated some other way. Maybe you don't get money, but maybe you get a car, and maybe you don't get a car, but maybe you get resources. And so someone who is great at fundraising in community on local scale is probably an unreal skill set that I think almost all community don't have. And then I would say the other skill set is something to do with reach. So that could be someone who might be maybe an author or a writer, maybe that's TV, film, who have enough influence, enough kind of wins in their kind of corner that they are trusted to do good work, and then can take that leverage and create narratives, stories that uplift and support and perhaps challenge on a really wide scale. And so we see that with things like Heartstopper. We see things like that in new media. Unfortunately, some of the people with the biggest reach do the opposite. So I've actually just seen like a report on Inside Out 2, the Disney movie, and there were explicit moves away from any queer messaging because they didn't want to be challenged about it. And so we are always kind of fighting against those things. And I just know that a widespread would like really benefit the community, and that's actually something I would love to do personally. I am working on a bi musical, and so hit me up if you want to fund my bi musical.
Hey,
this is a really important question coming up next, so everyone lean in, lend us your ears. This might divide the audience actually. Chapel or Charlie? Now, of course, we're talking Chapel Roan and Charlie XCX. Steve, there's one right answer.
That's a silly question because it's Charlie XCX. I don't know why that's the question.
Listen, we're bound to stop being friends eventually.
You've heard it here. We know you're a Chapel stan.
Yes, love Chapel, but this is just as a personal preference of music. I enjoy Chapel more. I do not pit women against each other because we are trained to pit women against each other. This isn't a competition. This is just a personal preference.
Charlie just matches my chaotic energy, so...
Yeah.
All right. Someone here has written a question. You both come across so confident in yourself relating to identity. So do you care about outside judgment still, or have you reached a place of peace with it?
Great question. Really good question.
Yeah.
Look, yes, I actually do still care about judgment. It's. I don't think I could completely be rid of it. I am trying every day, and this is kind of how I am trying to manifest that comfort. There are still people in my life I don't talk to about my sexuality. They might now know about it because it's on social media often. But yeah, I am out and have conversations with people that I'm confident and comfortable with, but that is actually surprisingly not everyone in my life.
Yeah, when it comes to confident, I'm not sure if it's so much confidence, but just like both of us, we've just done the work, right? Like what everyone sees here and what everyone hears here is a result of years of work and, therapy as well. Highly recommend. For me, definitely, I feel like I've reached a place of peace, which I feel really, really lucky to be able to say. Like, couldn't really care. And it's quite funny. People are always surprised if someone doesn't know me and we just get chatting and they get to know me and they're like, oh, we were expecting you to be more defensive or more preachy or something. And because, I talk about this stuff a lot very publicly, but in person, I'm very normal, if that's probably the wrong thing to say. But it's because I don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. The proof is in the pudding. It's in the smile on my face and the way I walk through the world every single day. anything that people say, it's water off a duck's back. It's sort of just like any sort of biphobia and that sort of stuff that I encounter, I just go, I'm like, that's so outdated. You're so behind the times, and the world is rushing past you. I feel sorry for them.
Yeah, I think confidence for me has kind of come from the fact that coming out as bisexual, or like reckoning with the fact that I'm bisexual in a relationship, especially a monogamous relationship, has meant that I've had to defend myself against things that weren't my problem. So stereotypes and myths have forced me to have to be very resolute in where I stand about my identity, because if I'm not, then the world is making up the decisions about me to my partner or my family or my friends, because the world has opinions about bisexuality already. So I had to get very like, no, this is who I am, and I stand by it and not backing down. And if you've got a different opinion about what that means, come to me and we'll talk about it. And so that's kind of where it comes from. And then I met some really fantastic bi folks like Steve. We got to talk about it in a little bit more of a practical sense. And that's kind of where it comes from.
You made me think of something. So something I've always been really self-conscious about is my voice. And because I've got a lighter, I've got like a lighter area. Some people would say like gay coded sort of voice, but it's just my voice and I can't ever change it. And it's just who I am. And like, it is something I'm self-conscious about, but I'm literally on a podcast where I have to talk and use my voice. And so it's just like, it's just me, and all of this is. And so it might not necessarily be confidence. I still experience a lot of self-doubt, all that sort of stuff. It's just getting on with it.
In an early episode, Chad mentioned his relationship with the church and how it quieted discussions about his bisexuality when he was younger. How did he ultimately navigate this dynamic and begin speaking more openly? And is Chad still involved in the church? Has Steve experienced something similar with any institution? Great question. Thanks for asking. So I found the church when I was 17. So I didn't grow up Christian or Catholic or anything like that. I went to a Catholic high school, hated it. I was quite against it, actually. And then when I went to college, I kind of fell in with a particular kind of crowd of people that I loved at the time, but I recognized weren't super great for me. And then I met some people who kind of changed my life. That were the people in my old band, and then also my partner, who is still my partner today. And they just happened to attend a Christian church. And they were just full of light. And I just absolutely adored the energy that they brought into my life. I'd never experienced that before. So I was like, whatever you've got, that's what I'm chasing. I want that energy in my life. And so that ended up being the church at that time in my life. Then I realized that it's not really the church that does those things and gives you joy. It's a community of people that prioritizes relationships and that kind of thing that brings you that joy. Yes, when I joined the church, I remember an incident where a friend of mine found out I was bisexual and told people, "Hey, do you know Chad's bi?" And the reactions from people like, okay, that's a bit awkward. It was like, let's not talk about that. And I was like, cool, okay. Like, I don't mind. I wasn't actually that put off by it, but I just recognized that like that's not what we're doing here. This isn't what we're doing in this friendship group. We're not talking about that. Whereas I've come from a friendship group where like fucking everyone was bi. So I was like, cool. All the joy that came from this new friendship group overwhelmingly, in my mind, kind of outweighed the needing to express my sexuality, and then through the church had a lot of people I adored who later in life have also come out as different versions of queer, and in hindsight have just recognized that like it's just an unfortunate environment where people aren't allowed to be truly authentic, but a version of authentic that suits the narrative. And I don't hate faith. I actually adore the idea of faith and believing in something larger than yourself. I think that's great. I am I do question organized religion because there are a lot of hang-ups in that I have issues with. It is also quite hard to support something that actively fights against your rights and your ability to live peacefully. So I have a lot of hang-ups about the church as an organized religion, as a political entity. So that's kind of where I am with it. I actually have a lot of love. Some of my best friends are still in church. But yeah, that's kind of my relationship with it as it stands today.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us, because it's such a huge part of your life and your story, and it has influenced so many of your experiences. But I guess, going back to something we talked about at the top of the show, your body of work, you'll have good parts of your body of work and also parts that you don't like, or parts that contributed to your body of work in a different way. It can't all just be the good stuff. And I don't know about you, but like all the previous experiences I've had in my life, it made me who I am today. And if we're happy and grateful for where we're at today, then that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Steve, I think this is a beautiful question. What is your perfect day?
Waking up with the sunrise, popping my running shoes on, going out to my nearest green area. I take it literally. I stop and smell flowers.
Sure, I love that.
I always, everyone stop and smell flowers. I promise you, you will not regret it. Listening to the birds and just living in that moment. And then the day that comes from that will be perfect.
Yeah, start your morning well.
I know that
is a good hack.
I know that sounds corny, but truly any day that starts like that is a perfect day for me. There's no such thing as like, I'm falling in love or like having the best carbonara. Like that's all window dressing. It's small things, I think. What about you? What's your perfect day? Yeah. What's your perfect day, Chad?
I tend to agree that if you start your morning well, you feel pretty good. I, though, have just recognized in saying that I've not started my morning well in a while. Because I go to bed late and then I get woken up with a screaming child. So my perfect day, if I could curate it, is waking up 30 to 60 minutes before everyone else, having a moment to do the morning pages, which is an exercise from Julia Cameron's book called The Artist's Way. And you do 3 whole pages of just nonstop writing. And that usually takes me 45 minutes, 15 minutes a page. So that's kind of my journaling. Then do some meditation, 10 minutes of meditation, stretches, that kind of stuff. And then a breakfast. And then I can then I feel pretty good. Kind of set some intentions for the day, though I haven't done that for a very long time, which I'm now recognizing is probably why I'm in a funk at the moment. Then I love waking up with my little one and having a cuddle on the couch, maybe watching some Bluey, and I'm playing with some toys is a bit of a dream scenario at the moment. Yeah, and I agree. If you start your morning like that, then the rest of the day is great. If I could listen to some music, awesome. If I can do some good work and make an impact at work, that's great, and have some good laughs with some people. If I can go to the theater, I'm even happier. If I spend time with my partner, I am over the moon. And also, if I get to have like a good conversation with someone where like we get to have some ideas and discuss it and kind of like workshop an idea like this, like I love this podcast for that reason, because you and I get to like explore a thing.
Yeah. I love that. You're just like this, and this. And I'm like, flowers.
Hey, but I love that.
Like, Chad and Steve. That's the most Chad and Steve response, though.
I take Dallas for a walk, and we do the bouquet of the day. And so we walk down out the street near our house, and we will pick flowers and put them in the pram and make like a bouquet of the day. And we love it.
Oh, gorgeous. I will add one thing, though. I will go to sleep happy if I've hit PBs on all my lifts in the gym that day. Yeah, that's my. I like to be able to end the day and be able to say you did good. I have a thing with my friend Saro where we used to call each other up and we'd ask each other, did you do good? And like, yeah, I did something I can be really proud of. And
good question. I like that.
Whatever it is. But yeah, hitting a PB. There's nothing like hitting a PB in the gym. Just like, oh.
Okay, this is a great question. How do you explain to boomer parents that bi isn't a stepping stone to gay? I'm so excited to get this question because, as we mentioned on last week's episode, we have developed like a resource that people can use to speak to people like boomer parents or people that may not understand. This particular person, I do know the person who asked this question. They have a family member who has come out as bisexual recently, and they have some family members who may not understand the idea of what bisexual is, and have that kind of idea that it is that stepping stone to gay. We have developed this landing page. It's got a whole bunch of FAQs, common misconceptions, explanations, definitions, and further reading and listening. That will help a lot, either to give to that boomer parent and they can do it in their own time, or for yourself so you feel prepared to have conversations confidently and have the right language around it as well. So we will link to that in the show notes. Thank you for asking that question.
Chad, we've got a question here. If you could remove one fear or anxiety from your life completely, what would it be?
Oh, good Lord. That's a deep one. Okay.
It is.
Okay, this one might seem a bit surface. However, it is something that has been present my entire life. And that is just the judgment or the anxiety around my body image. I've felt uncomfortable in my body my whole life. I've got not the greatest relationship with food and dieting and exercise, and then it kind of goes over into areas of my life like, what clothes do I wear, and how do I turn up in this space, or how do I turn up in that space? Do people judge me? Am I judging myself? Is that all that kind of stuff? And then now as a parent, I recognize that those things, I can't live those out in front of my child because that will become their reality too. So if I could, lot
of pressure.
Oh yeah. It's bizarre. Well, the second you have a kid, you're just like, all of my flaws will be the building blocks of their life, and that's terrifying. But if I could pluck one thing out of my life and never have to deal with it, which is possible, it would be my relationship to my body image, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's huge. It's a huge thing in our community. It's a huge thing that people don't speak up about enough. So I think it's really important that you've spoken about that really openly and honestly. I love you, Chad.
I love you. Thank you. Appreciate that. What about yourself? Do you have one?
One fear or anxiety. I sometimes just don't feel like a fully operational adult. I do have generalized anxiety. I have generalized anxiety, so like it's sort of a broader thing. But there's always a sense of things could fall apart any second, even though like, you know, I'm at a point in my life where things are pretty set up, and so it's sort of that. I'd like to be able to admit to myself that I am a fully functioning adult.
I was talking to my partner about this. Is like, I feel like that idea. You never feel like you've really got it all together. You always feel like you're kind of posing as an adult, or you've got imposter syndrome. Like, I don't think you ever really get rid of it. Kind of like what I was saying before, like figuring out that your parents don't have it all together. It's like, well, they're a lot older than us. So like, do I have to wait that long? So yeah, I feel like it's just about learning to like honor that feeling and accept that like, I can do good work. I can do good, as you and your friend Zara. Is that it?
Sarah.
The question is, Sarah, did you do good? It's like you can do good and be anxious about it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just being comfortable with that discomfort.
Yeah, totally. Now, we went into today with not many questions, and then we got a lot of questions last minute. So we are currently looking through them, and we're noticing that there are a lot of questions about bisexuality specifically. And what I might suggest at the end of this episode is we might package these up into another episode and make it like a bi FAQ. And so if your question hasn't been answered on this podcast, we will answer it. Don't worry. This one was, I guess, trying to be a little bit more of like a get to know us kind of conversation. We will answer all of them, but we might just do it on another episode. Thank you for being so wonderful with all of your questions. We might have time for one or two more. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, there's one last one I want to finish off on.
Cool. Is it the one from last episode that you were teasing? Because
no,
we haven't.
No.
Okay. Actually,
all
I'm
right,
surprised I
everyone.
didn't get any questions about tattoos. Like, I was excited to talk about tattoos.
All right, we're finishing up on one question, and it's one that I have handpicked.
Okay.
It's directed
Juicy.
at me. What's your favorite part of being Chad's friend?
Oh,
This is a question that we've been sent in.
I love that.
My favorite part of being Chad's friend,
I'm gonna cry.
It's two bits. I just feel so lucky to have you around, just to have you in my life, in my orbit, and at arm's reach, and someone I get to spend all this time with. It's just a beautiful friendship. But then, like, at like another level, you make me feel good about myself. And you've always, for many years, just made me feel more comfortable about myself. And I think that is just such a gift. And it's a gift that you've given me. So it's not just the favorite part of being your friend, it's just having you influence me in such a wonderful way.
Stop.
So, love ya. And
that's really sweet. Love you. Oh, that's honestly really thoughtful. Thank you. I love you. I love being your friend, and I am constantly inspired by you. I am motivated to be a better version of myself every day.
They didn't ask this question of you about me. So
I'm asking. No. I honestly like. I so appreciate the ways in which you challenge me, the ways in which you support me, and that I feel like you and I are very exactly the same and exactly different in all the right ways. Like totally. we are a really great balance, and it's rare that you find people that it just is so easy. Like, it is just so effortless to enjoy your company.
Oh, I love you, Chad. All right, everyone, you got the tears and the reaction you wanted.
There we go. That was beautiful.
Awful people. But genuinely, thank you everyone so much for sending in all of your questions. Like Chad said, we will. There are some awesome bi-related questions, and something that I think we should take deeper dives into rather than just touch on. So I hope you all got to learn a bit more about us. Some fun facts. I think following up, we're going to eventually hear Chad get on his guitar and
you don't want that.
and stretch his vocal cords for us. I want to hear some of that.
Oh God, maybe in the future I'll have a musical for you.
Amazing. And I'll seduce someone in French or something. I don't know what my.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Maybe we'll do a whole episode. I don't really have a special
skill.
12-month countdown to an entirely French episode. That'd be great. Thank you so much for sending in the questions, for listening along. If I could ask one thing from you this week, is please take a photo of your absolutely wonderful Halloween outfits and send them to us. I want to know what characters, what bi-cons, what references you're making. I feel like Halloween is by Christmas. I feel like it feels very witchy and very, very us. So Ooky spooky. So send in, please DM us, send in your best looks. Join the Facebook group, send them in there. If you don't want to send them publicly or anything, it's a nice private group. But yeah, I want to see no self promo this week. Just give us the fun ooky spooky vibes.
Can't wait to see your looks.
Can't wait. Well, and a reminder. Okay, actually, I do have one last one because it's important and you'll appreciate it as well. A reminder that the Bish study is still open. That is the first ever national bi plus sexual health study. It is important that our community is seen and recognized for all the ways that we are different and all the ways that we experience sex, sexual health, and relationships. We will have a link in the show notes. We talked about it on a previous episode. We'll continue to talk about it. Please go and participate in that study. It has been put together by some incredible researchers, including the person sitting across from me right now, Steve Spencer. Please go participate. It behooves you to be counted.
Behoves you. Oh my gosh.
It behoves you.
Episode 1. It behoves
There we are.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Make sure you share this episode.
We love you. Mwah.
Love you lots. Mwah.